So in this vid, I'm going to make a illustration for Halloween. It's going to be a 2D illustration with a 3D background. So I kind of know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to do a rough sketch, and then I'll hop into Blender after the fact. Because I kind of have an idea of what I want to do, but I just want to do a rough sketch first. Okay, this is the general vibe. So I'm going to go into Blender now and just get started. So I'm just gonna UV this as it is. Let's go edit mode. Boom. Boom. And select every edge here. UV, unwrap. There we go. So what I will do is I'm gonna layer these on top of each other. And that's the UV. And now I can UV this part. So basically, when I say UVing, what I'm doing is I'm basically unfolding this like you would make a figure out of paper, like a paper cube, and like lay it flat. So that way I could put colors on it in like a 2D file. Alright, so this looks like it's about all that needs to be done. I hit A to select everything. UV, unwrap. And then over here you could see it flattens everything because I put all the creases in that I wanted. So I'm just going to overlay them on top of each other. And now I could go Shift D and I copy that. And I bring that over to the other side right here. Boom. So now if we go back to the drawing monitors, we have one of the sets of stairs here done. You see this right here? We got one set of stairs done, so I could copy this and put another one up here. I need to make like the rocky area over here and over here. And then the headstones and the little zombie arms. And then this platform up here I can probably make. I think maybe I'll make it like tiled in some way and have some of the tiles like protruding up. Now, do I offset this a little bit? I think if I offset it a little bit, it might turn out a little better. Maybe add a little rotation action going on. Well, do I have my camera? Where's the camera? Something like that is good. Okay, so we got ZBrush open. So now it'll be easier to make some sort of rock. Alright, so here in ZBrush, I'm just making an oblong sphere, and I'm just using the clay tubes brush to make a little like rocky texture going over it. And then I export it back into Blender and I check and make sure that it fits. And I have to remesh it so that way the poly count is lower in the final scene, because it doesn't need like hundreds of millions of polys or whatever. It only needs just enough to show the detail. And then here I'm making all the tiles for the top of the platform. I start with the plane, I just add some subdivisions, and then I add a bunch of edge loops and cut out in between all the tiles. And then I make the headstone here to place on top of the rock. Is it hard to make a texture file? Not really. This is what the hard part is right here, is the flattening of it. So you're taking the 3D object and you have to flatten it down into 2D. And then once it's flattened down into 2D, I could bring it into a texturing program and start putting colors and stuff on it. But if you don't flatten it the right way, then you could get some like stretching and stuff in the final model, and that's when you get a model that looks kind of like weird in the end, and it looks like warped and stuff. Older games tend to have more messed up like UV unwraps. So, but I've taught myself to make sure that my UVs are always pretty decent, so that way when I texture them, it ends up looking nice and smooth without any issues or creases or anything like that. So, but it does take a little bit to get all the texture maps looking good at first, because like you see how these are like offset a little bit. Like you want them to be on top of each other, and you see sometimes like parts of it match up but others don't, so then you have to go through the entire model and like move the individual vertices to line up. Some people don't even do it this way. I'm basically taking both sides and I'm overlaying opposite but identical pieces of the mesh on top of each other. It's going to have the same texture on both. Some people want each side to be separate, but then what you're doing is you're losing density of the texture, so it'll be less quality because you're trying to cram then two of this entire object into the square, so then there's less space to put colors on because each individual shape is smaller, you know. So it's like kind of a thing where you have to work out what is noticeable if it's duplicated on both sides and what is not. But since you're only looking at the tombstone from one side at a time, it doesn't really matter in this instance, especially since I'm only going to be having it from like a single camera angle, you know. But like if this was going to be a game where you would be walking around the tombstone in 3D space and it was supposed to be super high quality and stuff, then there might be some situations where I'd want it to be not noticeable that it's the same texture on both sides and vary it. And in that case, I would have to split them in two and sacrifice some texel density, which is fine, but I don't need to do that here. So yeah, exactly. It's exactly like skins for Minecraft. It's the same exact thing. It's just the skins for Minecraft are a lot lower resolution. I think they're like 512 by 512 or something like that, whereas this can be anywhere from 512 by 512 to like 4K by 4K. Or higher even. Some people go insane. There we go. So now what we have to do is lay everything out by size, and we go from most important to least important. So on this gravestone, the most important piece is going to be this, because that's where the most of the texture is going to be. It's the largest piece. So we just take that, make it bigger. Okay, so here I just UV'd the obelisk and finished off UVing the tombstones. And then I marked the seams of every corner of every tile on this floor to flatten them out. And I laid them all on top of each other, and it took a very long time. And now here I'm creating the mausoleum just with basic box modeling and extrusion. And then it ends up looking like this. I need to make some zombie hands, I need to make some ghosts, and I need to make a scythe. I want to start with the scythe. Okay, so from the scythe, I just extrude the blade out from a skinny cylinder from one of the faces, and I just make it pointy on one end and like broken off like splintered wood from the other, and then I put it in the ground. Not too bad. Whoops. Alright, we have pretty much two objects left. I need to make a zombie hand that comes out the ground. and some ghosties. I think I want to start with the hands because that's going to have to be, well, actually both are going to have to be rigged, I think. I don't want to be lazy about this. Okay, so for the arm, I'm starting with the cube and just getting the basic shapes of the arm muscles down. And then I adjust the edges on all four corners to round them out a little bit. And I separate the four fingers from the thumb. And I cut slits down the hand so that way I can separate all four of the fingers. And I'm just adjusting vertices to get the shape of each finger down and the sizes of each one. I create edge loops on all the knuckles and I shrink them just so that way there's something to bend when we get to the rigging part. And then I want to make it look more zombie-esque and stuff. So I'm cutting a hole out the center of the arm there, like in between the two arm bones, and I'm just filling it in. And then I'm selecting all of the faces on the sides and extruding them inward to create like arm bones. And I'm just adjusting the vertices around the flesh of it to make it look like it's all tattered and teared. And then I do random extrudes so that way it's like patches of skin missing, and then there'll be like muscle exposed underneath with the texture. And I basically do that for both arms, so it's just going to be the same thing on both sides. Alright, now I'm setting up the rig for both of the arms now that they're both modeled, and we're just doing a simple rig. We got the bicep bone, forearm bone, wrist bone, and then bones for each of the joints in each finger. And we do that on both sides. We skin it up, do some weight painting. I'm not going to show the full process of weight painting, but if you want to see more of the entire process of this project, all the VODs are up on the channel, so you can take a look there. And now we're just testing all the motions. Thumbs up. Okay. That is what I call a weight painted arm. Right there. Alright, now we work on the ghost. I'm just modeling him from a sphere and just stretching him out. I extrude some arms from the sphere and then create the shape of the mouth and the eyes with edge loops. And from there, we just rig him the same way as we did the arms. Just, I made a root bone in his chest, and then I made bones all the way down the tail, and then bones the other direction going up to the head and through the arms. And then I made a hologram texture for him in Unreal Engine. Alright, so I'm only going to show me texturing one object because there's so many of them, and it's pretty much the same process for each one. So basically what I'm doing here is for each part of the texture that's going to have a separate material, I'm putting like a base texture down in a layer in Substance Painter, and I'm masking out each of the pieces of each material within the texture. There's some like base textures that you're able to like adjust the color of, so I used like a human skin texture and toned it down to green, and then I'm masking out all the other parts. All of these textures are going to be put through a pixel filter. So for the blood texture, I used the picture of meat for the base texture and just adjusted the hue and lightness to get a more like oxidized blood look. And then for the bones, I ended up using a wood texture that I desaturated, and I was able to make some like brittle looking bone. Then I used a pixel plugin to add some dithering. I did different dithering settings for each of the models, but I thought it ended up looking good at the end. In Unreal Engine, I just was able to drag everything in and throw the materials right on top. I also imported all the animations. I didn't show me animating anything, but all of that footage is in the VODs if you want to see it. If you want an in-depth video on like how I did materials, let me know, as well as any other video suggestions. The only other thing I had to do is mess with the color and the brightness of all the environment lighting, because there's like a sky sphere, a skylight, and a bunch of point lights within the project file, and I wanted to make it like dark and like nighttime looking, which was actually kind of difficult to do with the default Unreal like skybox and stuff like that, but I managed to get it to look pretty decent. With the ghost texture, I ended up using a hologram texture that I had made prior, and it has an emission value. So it like basically off-puts some purple light into the scene, which looked pretty lit. And then I added a 2D sprite of the illustration that I made in Clip Studio Paint. And after that, it just came down to putting a camera in and rendering everything together. I did a couple of different camera pans, so that way it zoomed in on the zombie hands and then the character and then the whole scene. And then I just put some music over it, and that was that. If any of y'all have any questions or comments, let me know. If you want to see more stuff like this, put suggestions in the comments. Also, I'm going to start doing some tutorial videos, so if you have anything that you'd like to know about Blender or any of the other programs that I use, let me know. Make sure to sub, because most of my viewers are not subs, and I would appreciate every subscribe and like that you give me.